This episode of the Old Dogs REI Network is brought to you by Mino Studio.
In a world where jobs are how most people make money, one man, one desire, one challenge dares to break the mold. Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where we don't work for money. Money works for us. Coming soon. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where cash flow is king. Real estate investing, the means, so you can enjoy your retirement dreams. This is the show where we cut right to the chase. No sales pitch, no long monologues, just simple how-to real estate investing advice, so you can earn the passive income you need to enjoy your retirement today. And now, your host and chief old dog, Bill Manacero.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network. I'm your host, Bill Manacero, and this is the show where 50-plussers and anyone else who wants to join us get solid, no sales pitch real estate investing advice to help generate real cash flow. This podcast airs twice weekly on Mondays and Fridays, and if you aren't already a subscriber, go to iTunes, type in Old Dog, spelled D-A-W-G, find our podcast, and subscribe. Well, today we have a great show. I'm real excited. Abhi Golthar is the host of Real Estate Deal Talk, an independent source of original podcast videos and articles discussing topics related to real estate investing. Of course, he's also an investor and a managing partner of Summit and Crown, a real estate investment firm in Atlanta, Georgia. He's been investing in real estate since 2002 and has always used a value-add approach to identify acquisitions. Abhi enjoys working with investor groups to implement market-driven strategies which have the highest potential for success. He also writes for Forbes, Inc., and Huffington Post. Well, Abhi, welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network.
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. You sound like you've done a lot in a relatively short period of time, and really interested in just hearing how you got into real estate investing in the first place.
Yeah, great question. It's a very, very long story, but I'll definitely keep it short and sweet. I was in college. I went to college in Michigan, in Ann Arbor. This was in 2002 to 2006. And during my tenure there, I'm like, I appreciate the engineering degree that I was getting, and I love working with my hands. So it's all good fun and games. But I'm like, you know what? There has to be more here. There has to be something more that I'm missing. And I felt like with every equation that I found in wealth, every equation that I read, all the books that I read from all the greats, every part of that equation had real estate. And then I was hooked, Bill. Let me tell you, I was so hooked. I started reading, the Kiyosakis, and then read a lot of Trump's books, read a lot of different material about how to invest in real estate. And then I just decided one day I'm just going to go for it and do it. And it was very interesting. I started this journey in 2002. I had just utterly failed, I feel, my first semester at Michigan. And then I read all these books, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to make this happen. And so I sought out a local mentor. And I thought to myself, I need a team. I need to figure out how to do this, because when you meet me in person, I'm 5'5" and 120 pounds. I mean, I know what a sledgehammer looks like, but there's no way I'm going to pick it up. Sorry, that's not my thing. Pulling weights, I don't really do it. And my mentor directed me to a couple of opportunities in Detroit. And at the time when I was in college, I was wholesaling real estate. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a little while as well. But I was wholesaling real estate. I was buying and selling classic cars to save up some cash. So what I used to do was I found all these classic cars on Craigslist, and I love the classics. I'm an old soul, I feel, and your 1965 Mustang Fastback, your California A code car, 289 4-barrel V8. I sold a lot of those and bought and sold a lot of them overseas.
Wow.
And the overseas market for these cars is tremendous. It's tremendous. So I saved up some cash and I got into a rental and a renovation deal, two different deals in inner city Detroit. And then as a full-time student, I found myself kind of driving back and forth between Ann Arbor and Detroit. And it was, quite frankly, it was a mess, to be quite frank with you.
Wow. So were the properties that you were investing in Detroit, were they, was it single family, small multis, commercial? I mean, what type were you involved in?
Yeah, all single family.
Okay.
So I had one house I was renovating to rent, and then the other house I was renovating to sell. And I had no team at the time, and I knew I needed to build one, but it was so tough between classes and then making all the calls to the contractors and not trusting anybody and not knowing what questions to ask. That was also really difficult. And I just found myself in a really, really desperate situation. I remember there was one time when I got a call from a contractor right around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, and I was just finishing my classwork. And he's like, Abhi, you need to get down to your property. And he's like, you need to get down to right now. I left a shop vac for you in the family room. I'm like, oh my goodness, I know what a shop vac is. Why aren't you there helping me out? And he had to go home, take care of his kids or something. I'm like, all right, cool, no problem. I leave Ann Arbor and I have like this 1992 Honda Civic DX. It's like this super small car. It smells moldy, bald tires, and as I leave Ann Arbor, it starts to snow. And by the time I get to Detroit, it is a full-on blizzard. And I pull into the driveway. I walk in the front door. I see the shop vac. I hear running water. Part of me dies in this moment. A little bit. and I'm like, are you kidding me? I drove all the way in a blizzard to deal with a water issue. How bad can it be, right? I'll be able to kind of take care of it and go home. Oh no. So I walk down the steps and I go to the basement. I am neck deep in water.
Oh, gee.
The pipes had frozen and my contractor hadn't been over there in a while. So the house was just completely flooded in the basement. And in that moment, I'm just like, oh my goodness, I am scared. I'm alone. I had no idea what to do other than the bright idea that came to me in the moment, which was, why don't we just start knocking on doors in inner city Detroit at 10:30 at night? That sounds like a wonderful idea. In the snow. And there was a very nice neighbor. I promise this is like another 30 seconds. There's a very nice neighbor that decided to help me. We toiled until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And using my engineering degree, you would think I have a little bit of logic, but I didn't. I'm like, you know what, let's just try to get as much water out of the house as possible without looking for where the source of the issue was. And I just like, it's not even worth it. It's too late at night. Go ahead, go on home. And it was that night. I will never forget that night. It was cold. I had no mattress. I slept upstairs on the second floor because all I remembered from physics from high school was that heat rises. And I fell asleep, curled up, not knowing who to trust and what to do. That's how I started investing in real estate. How about that, Bill?
Oh, wow. Gee whiz. Now, this, you were going to buy the property to rent out. Is that correct? It was going to be a rental income?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was going to be rental.
And did you do a lot of research on the area? How did you select this house?
It was just offered to me by my mentor at the time. I had you talk about just being completely green and not even understanding the two words due diligence. That was me. That was me at 19. I didn't even care. I was so hungry and I was so motivated to invest in real estate. I would do anything to get involved. And that was the biggest, that was just a big challenge for me and probably one of the mistakes that I made. I'm just like, you know what? I should have done that homework. And unfortunately, I trusted the guy.
Right.
We learn our lessons.
Right. Well, how did you get from there to, where you are now? I mean, obviously that was a learning experience. Hopefully you learned a lot from it and didn't repeat it too often. But where did you go from there? Did you keep buying single family? Did you decide, I'm not going to invest for a while? I mean, where did you go?
Yeah, so I was an emotional wreck, right? I wholesaled off these two properties, luckily, barely made anything. I think I made like $3, enough to buy a Big Mac at McDonald's. And, and I wholesaled them off, and I graduated, finished school in 2006. And I'm like, okay, I'm Indian, and I had just turned down job offers from tech companies and IT companies on the West Coast, a lot of software companies as well. And the reason I mentioned that I'm Indian is because I went home to my dad. I told him about the job offers, but I didn't tell him that I turned all of them down and that I was going to go to Lincoln, Nebraska to pretty much not live with, but move there for my now ex-girlfriend at the time. And it was such a weird world. I don't think I was making the right decisions, but there was a part of me that said, you know what? If you start in corporate, you will never leave. If you start in corporate, you'll never leave. If you start in corporate, you'll never leave. And I didn't want to start in corporate. I'm like, I'm going to crack this at some point in time. So I move out to Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm there for about 3 months, and I meet this guy, Andy Vu. Andy is a real estate agent with First Choice Realty. He's still there, and he is the most humble, the most amazing man that you'll ever meet. And he helped me overcome some of those emotional barriers that I had because of my failures in Detroit. And he said, okay, let's start from the basics. Let's start knocking on doors. Here's a script. Memorize it. You're going to freeze. You'll have doors slammed in your face. You won't have pleasant conversations. But you know what? Stay at it. And so for the 3 months that I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, that's all that I did. I followed him around. I paid attention to what he was doing. And I emulated him, and I saw what he saw. I saw opportunity in single-family rentals. After the 3-month stint, the relationship didn't work out. I moved to where did I go? Wentzville, Missouri. That's right. I moved to Wentzville, Missouri, a small town just maybe 40 minutes west of St. Louis. And I moved in with one of my buddies, David. He's a really good guy as well. He was developing real estate at the time. He was developing subdivision, and he was building new homes. This was at the height of the crash in 2007, 2008. So I was there. I learned a lot about development. I learned so much about development. It was absolutely crazy. I learned engineering. I learned about surveys, learned about how to talk to investors, banks, lenders, everything under the sun. And guess what was still there? Real estate. It was kind of nagging at me a little bit, but I didn't really think my time was there yet because I still needed more information. I still needed more knowledge, and I still needed the confidence from the shambolic exposure that I had in Detroit. It was just a shambles. So I kept going, and I kept digging, and I wanted it so bad. I just wanted it. So I continued to seek out good people, good mentors, and now I had a gauge, right? I had a crappy mentor in Detroit. So now I knew what a crappy mentor was. And I'm thinking to myself, well, hey, you can't go anywhere but up from here. So I found a couple mentors along the way. I moved to Atlanta in late 2007 after my stint in Wentzville and St. Louis. Worked with a mentor here and did what I did back in Michigan. I got back to my roots. I started wholesaling real estate. I was in between mortgage notes, so I used to find mortgage notes at a discount and then sell them to national note buyers. And then I was also buying and flipping cars, just kind of waiting for that right opportunity to work with somebody in real estate. And then I finally got that in 2008 with my current business partner, Walt Higgins. And then that's when we formed Summit and Crown. And that was, I think, March or April in 2008. And it's been fun ever since.
Wow. What
Yeah.
adventure. Now, did you know, this is totally off real estate here, but did you know anything about cars in terms of, I mean, were you mechanically inclined to work on the cars, or did you hire somebody to do what had to be done to fix them up?
Yeah, so I just hired folks out, and what's funny too is one of my good buddies. He still has a dealership in Florida. His name's Jim. I used to put a lot of his cars under contract, and he's a dealer. Right, so he did the 150-point inspections on the car. He told me all the history about the car, the floor pans, the quarter panels, all the wheel wells, all the rust spots that Mustangs would have, and he used to go through that with a fine-tooth comb. But you know what he didn't know was marketing. So I helped him put that ad up on eBay, and we sold so many cars it was nuts. But if you could, I mean, I could tell you like if this is a proper VIN. For a Mustang or a Camaro or whatever, it's quite a hoot.
What a trip! Oh, that's great! How exciting! Well, it sounds like you got a very broad background there. You're wholesaling. You were doing notes even. Do you still do wholesaling and notes today, or are you focused in a different area?
In a very small capacity. I feel like if we purchase opportunities that don't make sense for the long term, but they do for the short term, and we identify other opportunities we'd rather buy, then we'll sell that deal, or we'll sell that opportunity to another investor, effectively wholesaling. We don't do a whole lot of double closes anymore. We don't do any assignments. If we want to buy something, we will. I love the note game though. The problem with real estate is there's so many things you can focus on and concentrate on. I'm super ADD sometimes. So
the shiny object syndrome. Everybody gets caught up.
Exactly. It's like, hey, wow, squirrel. That's a problem.
Right. Exactly.
So if I don't focus, then I get a little, then I'll just start taking on opportunity, and my business partner Walt will end up having, I'll call him. I'll say, hey, yeah, we just purchased 50 homes. And then I'll get yelled at for 2 hours. So I don't need that. But I think notes is a great way to, especially like second notes or first lien positions that are underperforming. If you can make those performing, turn those around, and then resell those at a much higher value, I mean, there's tremendous opportunity there in this space right now.
Now, was your primary income at that time the wholesaling and the notes?
Yes, wholesaling, notes, and cars.
And cars. And you were making a pretty decent income at that time?
Yeah, I think so. I think for every car that we sold, I had one of my buddies. He was helping me. He was out of Malibu, and then he flew back and forth between Sweden and Malibu. We were doing pretty well. I mean, we were selling maybe 5 or 6 cars a month, or we were marketing. We're not dealers, so we can't necessarily sell the cars, but we were helping them market. And we're making about $2,000-$3,000 a pop, which it wasn't too bad. Yeah. And saving some of that cash and living off of some of that, and then reinvesting that was always priority for me, and has always been. The Rockefellers invested 80 to 90% of their income annually and lived off of just a marginal amount, only 10 to 20%. I'm sure the numbers are significantly tighter than that, and that's how they amassed the wealth. And that's been ingrained into me ever since I read that as a college student.
That's great. That's great. So what is the primary focus of your firm today? What are you guys buying? What are you investing in?
Single family development and multifamily, primarily apartment complexes. So we'll purchase a value add opportunity on the apartment complex side, 100, 150, 200 units, raise the equity, put the debt in place, reposition the asset over 3 to 5 or 7 years, and either hold on to it, refinance, hold on to it for the portfolio, or sell it if there's an opportunity. And then the single family space is also really, really fun. Where we just put about 3 acres under contract in Atlanta. Should be able to do about 15 townhomes. We'll work with the city to see if we can get a higher density and maybe put an apartment complex there, because they're doing that in that area anyway. So if we can do that, that'd be a heck of a deal. But that's generally what we like to do. We like taking on the harder project, even if it's a single family, just the infill lot opportunity. We'll take a look at those too. So it's pretty fun.
That's great. Now, the development was that an area that you got your experience? And you mentioned when you were in Missouri, you were involved with that. As your partner also got that kind of background, or did you just kind of figure it out as you guys went along?
Great question. And my partner has that background. My business partner, Walt Higgins, he's 10 years my senior. So he's been in Atlanta since the late 90s, I think 98, 99. And he's been investing since then. And he has just a tremendous amount of experience in operations and development and rehabbing and flipping and buying and holding, property management, this kind of stuff. So he's like this ninja. Like, you don't know where he comes from. Sometimes he'll sneak up behind you and then he'll just lay down a whole lot of knowledge on that table during that meeting. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so blown away. It's very similar to how I feel when I leave my accountant's office. I feel like a complete idiot.
Those are the best kind of folks to work with,
That's right.
You want to get somebody that complements you, and you have your areas, I'm sure, that he values, and you balance them out together, and makes it for a good partnership. That's great.
You got
That's great. Well, 2002 to 2017, that's a considerable amount of experience so far. Now, granted, some of the early, well, that's a rough go, but what would you look at in terms of your biggest mistake that you've encountered in your real estate efforts?
I would say, without repeating myself, I would definitely say that experience in Detroit. It taught me so many lessons. One, due diligence. You got to do your homework. Number two, you have to find the right people to work with. You have to have the right team. 3, you need to make sure your numbers are right. If your numbers aren't right, you're just done. It doesn't matter. Number 4, you have to have the right capital. There's so many lenders out there right now that will charge 5 points and 20%, I'm finding, or even like 4 to 6 points and 50-50 on a deal. Are you kidding me? I mean, there's so much cheaper capital out there. It's crazy. I mean, you can give a patch of land a call. My buddies over at Patch of Land, I mean, they're not even that expensive. I mean, they're like 2.5 points and 8.5% interest. I mean, it's unbelievable. So it was in that moment that I realized I know absolutely nothing about real estate, and I can give you a list of things that I did wrong, but I learned from that, and I strengthened every part of that. There's some folks that say pay attention only to your strengths but not your weaknesses. But if you're just starting out, you might have some more weaknesses than you do strengths. That's why you go to the gym and build that muscle so that you get back out onto the football field or the soccer field or the volleyball court and dominate, because now your muscles are trained up and good to go. I had to do the same thing because I was an engineering kid. I had no background in real estate at all. I mean, when I was growing up, I used to ask my dad about stocks, and he's like, "Pay attention to your SATs. That's what's going to get you into Michigan." I'm like, "Yes, Dad. I mean, I did that, but now I want to learn about how to invest." And we never really had that conversation as much as I wanted to have that conversation. So I had to find a lot of that information by myself. And now he and I have so many ideas we go back and forth on. It's crazy. But making those early mistakes was really, really crucial. And just because I was 19 shouldn't deter somebody that's, in their 50s or in their 60s to at least give it a shot, because we have to take a chance on ourselves. And if we never do that, we'll look back, even if it's a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, and be like, man, I really should have done something about that, because, gosh, it would have been okay.
Right. Well, it sounds like you recovered well, and that you did learn from it. And we all have those mistakes. It's we try to mitigate it as much as possible, but yeah, one of the ways to do that is by getting a good mentor. But I honestly, think that that's just part of it, and I think that's where the real education begins, is in those mistakes. That's where I've learned the most. You can study all you want, you can go to the webinars and the seminars and read the books, but it's not until you buy your first property, I think, that the real education begins. So it sounds like that's something you experienced firsthand. I was thinking too, you could have turned that into an indoor ice skating rink, that place, just open up the doors. Okay, done.
Yeah. Just demo the house and leave
bring
the
them down in the
right
basement, put some skates on and start charging them.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I love what you said about just that. It's just the creativity with investing makes sense, right? You have to build the right team, and mitigating risk as much as possible, finding that mentor. It's all part of it. It is absolutely all part of giving it a shot and seeing what happens.
Right. Good point. Well, conversely, what would you say to date has been your biggest success?
Oh boy, I would say it's not even a deal. I would say it's finding the right people to work with.
Oh, that's great.
I wouldn't be able to do what I'm able to do today without the people that I have in my life, period. it's not. I don't consider my deal success. I consider the impact that I have on my family, my business partners, those that are closest to me as that success, because it is only through them that I have the ability, that they truly enable me to do what I need to do and what I can do and what I want to do every single day.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, that's a great point. Really, the folks that you align yourself with is critical. You know, getting people of integrity, getting people that that not only know what they're doing, but people that you feel comfortable working with, that you know are going to stick with you and work for your growth and education as well, in addition to closing great deals. That's really a really good point. Well, a lot of our folks are 50 plus in age, although we have a lot of others that listen because we really do provide a lot of just general real estate investing advice, but really are targeting that audience of 50 plusers that are either approaching retirement or already in retirement, and they're looking at real estate as a means to be able to maybe supplement their retirement or maybe help them to achieve a higher level of retirement and to do things that they've always dreamed of doing. What kind of advice would you give to that audience? We obviously have a different viewpoint. We don't necessarily look at a long-term plan here of 20, 40 years or what have you.
Sure.
We're looking at, first off, cash flow being our primary focus, and then beyond that, leaving a legacy for our families and our kids and grandkids when we pass on. So what advice would you have about those folks getting out in terms of, just from your experience, that would be of value to them?
We have many investors that we work with that are 50 plus. And they're interested in two things. One, cash flow, and two, security. And I can wholeheartedly appreciate that. So if there is a way, if there's a mechanism, which there is, if there's a mechanism that can give you both, and in real estate, it's something that I think I read in Kiyosaki's book, which he says, which I absolutely love. In real estate, as with no other asset class, you get the following. You get income, depreciation, equity, appreciation, and leverage. But if you can, as a result of investing in real estate, benefit from the security, knowing that that property will be there for a long time, and two, benefit from the cash flow, and even if you can benefit from some of those other things, you win. You absolutely win. And if you take a look at what the stock market has been doing, I mean, it's ups and downs and ins and outs. And I'm not saying that do not invest in the stock market. Definitely not saying that. I feel a well-balanced portfolio makes sense for everybody, including young people, including millennials, rather, my generation of people. So I would say find good secondary markets, because primary markets are a little saturated, I feel, with real estate activity right now. If you take a look at Atlanta, there's so much activity going on. The price points are skyrocketing. Your yields are turning down. Overall profit numbers are decreasing just because cost of materials are going up, cost of labor is going up, cost of the deal is going up, and all of a sudden that pinches out the middle. I mean, it really compresses that profit margin. So where do you go? Well, you have to go to where the people that can't afford, say, Midtown Atlanta, $2,500 a month rents, where are they going to go? And go to some secondary markets. Take a look at, say, Macon, Georgia, Newnan, Georgia, Alpharetta, Georgia, Douglasville, Georgia. Folks are willing to move there, and these are amazing folks, and they have families, and they want to put a roof over their head. And this is an opportunity that you can capitalize by not only providing them a roof, but also having an income stream and equity and appreciation and depreciation and leverage for the future. So single-family rentals is by far the best, absolute best strategy that you all can use to really dominate in your overall real estate portfolio. In terms of numbers, just really quickly, I would look at purchasing property where my total project cost is less than or equal to 70% of where the after repair value of that property will be. So this way, guess what? Even if the market corrects by 5%, you're in the money. If the market corrects by 10%, you're in the money. If the market corrects by 20%, by then you're in the money. And even if you decided not to sell, that's okay because you're still getting cash flow. The biggest losers in the stock market crash, right? All of us remember that tech bubble, that stock market crash in the early 2000s. Unless we have amnesia. If we have amnesia, then that's another issue. But the folks that lost the most money were those folks that sold their portfolios, where they bailed out of the market, where they stopped investing. Don't do that, right? Hold on to your investments because for the long term, it makes sense. So to summarize in 3 words, single family rentals.
Gotcha. Well, looking at your current business, I'm sure you and your partner have looked at what you're doing and where you want to go. What's really ahead for you folks in the next 10 to 20 years?
Great question. Multifamily apartment complex acquisition, reposition, and hold. If there's one thing that I know that will generate that generational wealth, it's going to be that. There are folks that will start out flipping real estate. That's great. You lose the asset. Sure, you get the capital gains. You're taxed heavily. And then you have the opportunity to deploy that capital later. I get it. No problem. Right? It's sexy. Getting a $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 check in the mail after you or wire transfer when you close on a flip. Great. It's good stuff. But you know what? You're going to have to do that all over again next year. There are flippers that I know in Atlanta that will do very well every single year. But you know what? They've created a job for themselves. They haven't created a business for themselves. So we're in the business of real estate investing, right? And I don't take that lightly. So if we look at how we can proceed forward, doing some of these development deals will allow us to continue to buy multifamily apartment complexes to see that cash flow so that we can spend time ultimately with our families and then being able to give back to society in the way that we want to.
Have you considered developing multifamily properties?
We have. We don't have a whole lot of experience with that, but it's not to say we can't bring somebody on our team that would be able to do that. I think right now in Atlanta there are, if you look at the skyline, if you're driving south or north on Interstate 85, 75, there are cranes like crazy. I mean, you see maybe 10 or 11 cranes in the skyline. So right now is probably a little bit of a dangerous time to be doing that in Atlanta. There was a period of time, maybe a couple months ago, where there was just no more funding available for new construction multifamily in the city, just because everybody thought it's kind of a bubble. And we're already seeing it a little bit because apartment complexes are offering concessions for their tenants, especially if you don't build them right, and especially if you're charging too much. Because in Atlanta, it's not very realistic to hit $2.50 or $2.60 a square foot. And get out of here. This isn't New York.
Right.
So I do feel that new construction in that world, new construction multifamily will work, but it will work in, say, a Birmingham, or it will work in a secondary or tertiary market.
Are you guys investing in those other markets or even in other states?
We are. We just finished a raise for an apartment complex a little north of Dallas, Texas. But we have teams in these states. Otherwise, we would definitely not look at it. I think Charlotte, we were in Charlotte. We did our best to develop a team there and then realized, the yield is the same in Charlotte as it is in Atlanta. And why would we drive 3.5 hours each way for the same yield? We wouldn't. So we're selling off Charlotte assets to see what other opportunities may exist. And then if Charlotte still proves to beat out the other cities, then hey, you know what? Might as well re-engage Charlotte. Jacksonville, Florida is another great rental market. Wonderful rental market. It's a little bit depressed from an income perspective. The average median income is maybe about $10,000 or $15,000 less than the rest of Florida, which is fantastic from a single-family rental perspective.
Oh, you bet. Well, great. Well, our time's kind of zipping by here. We have a thing called Wrap It Up that gives us an opportunity to sort of pick your brain about resources that can help us in our real estate efforts. I'll ask you a series of quick questions, and you just respond with your quick answers. So are you ready to wrap it up?
I'm ready to wrap it up, Bill.
All right. Favorite real estate book?
I would say the ULI Guide is really good. The Urban Land Institute has a book called Professional Real Estate Development. That is sensational. It is something that every real estate developer should read.
great. I haven't heard that one before. Excellent.
Yeah.
Favorite business book?
I would say Dr. Robert Cialdini, I think that's how you pronounce his name, The Psychology of Persuasion. That definitely provides some really good insight into just behavioral psychology, connecting with others, and what you can do better.
Great. How about your most valuable website for real estate investing success other than your own?
Real estate investing success. I love video format, and I will go crazy when I see something like that the next time. But I think if there's one site that comes to mind, it's Udemy. Check out udemy.com.
How do you spell that?
U, the letter U, D as in dog, E as in Edward, M as in Mary, Y as in you.
All right. Why isn't why? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Why isn't yak? Maybe. How about a yak? Yellow. I guess.
All right. How about your favorite app?
My favorite app right now is Instagram.
And do you do a lot of promotion on that, or just strictly just on for personal use?
No promotion necessarily. I do talk a lot about real estate and just mindset stuff. That's why I love your show, Bill. I mean, you don't sell anything, period, and I'm the exact same way. So you'll never see me selling anything. I don't have products, no coaching, nothing like that. It's just straight good information that I'm using, and I like to promote that, I guess, to the world. So whether it's a strategy that's working, whatever it might be, and that's all over the place on Instagram.
Love it. Favorite quote?
Say from Andrew Carnegie himself. Do your duty and a little more, and the future will take care of itself. The great industrialist.
Great. All right, final question. If something catastrophic happened and you lost everything except $1,000 in cash, what would you do with that $1,000 to relaunch your real estate investing business?
Boy. So folks say that you can wholesale and you can start wholesaling with $1,000. I disagree, because if you want to get wholesaling deals, you have to create a lead funnel. Essentially, a really complicated way of saying you have to find a way to get leads of homeowners that want to sell your property. And if you want to do that, it's going to take several months and capital spend. I'd go back to flipping cars. It's what I know, and I would get back into the game. I'd take that $1,000 and do that, and I would churn those 3 businesses inside and out, and reinvest as much as I could. So I would start off with cars, and I would immediately, as soon as I could, get right back into wholesaling real estate.
That's great.
And, yep, using that cash, then, well, sky's the limit.
So you have a lot of folks probably contacting you wanting to get on your classic car list. I mean, I know there's a number of us old dogs, love early 60s, mid 60s. I mean, great.
You talk about that 1967 Mustang S-Code 290, right? Come on now. And then that 69 Camaro SSRS with the hideaway headlights.
Oh man. All right.
I mean, you cannot go wrong with that.
I love it. Well, gosh, this has been great having you on, Abhi. I think you've got a lot of valuable information that folks are definitely going to take home with them. If there are folks that maybe want to reach you, I know by going to your website, you have some great resources for investors. What's the best way for folks to reach you?
Yeah, the best way to do that is to go to realestatedealtalk.com. And you'll see everything there, everything from the radio show to the podcast. I do a lot of YouTube videos as well, but everything, if there's one place that you should definitely take a look at outside of Bill's podcast, make sure you listen to Bill's podcast. Outside of that, go to realestatedealtalk.com.
That's great. Well, I'm a podcast junkie myself, so I'm definitely going to be listening. I think you've got a lot of good stuff to offer. So thank you.
You got it.
Well, we're not completely done yet. Now, if you, of course, read your notes here, you know that we close out every show with your best old hound dog howl. Now, probably when you were living, in Michigan, you probably didn't hear any hound dogs, but Atlanta, I know, has hound dogs, and and
this is dog country right here.
That's right. There's some good old dogs there. So right. We're gonna just open it up to you to close us out with your best old hound dog howl. Are you ready, Abby?
I'm ready. Let's do it. On right. 3, 2, ow!
Oh, right. Okay, that was good. I thought the dog died a little early there.
I think a little bit. My throat's a little scratchy.
No, that's okay. That was great. Well, I can't thank you enough for being on. Thank you. I do think that there's a lot of valuable information that folks can get from your programs and website, podcast, radio show. I mean, it's awesome what you're doing, and you don't even have to do that stuff. So it really impressed me when I checked in on that. It's just a great resource. So I invite our listeners to definitely check out Abby's information here in that website. Of course, all you listening here, we appreciate you folks for coming out and listening to us. We know there's a lot of other things you can be doing with your time right now, but the fact that you chosen to listen to us, we greatly appreciate it. I do want to note that everything that we mentioned today will be outlined in our real detailed show notes, as well as links to his website and some of the references that he talked to, including some of the books and other resources he mentioned as well. Well, that is it for today. We really, again, appreciate Abby for joining us and appreciate all you folks as well. Remember, cash flow is king, real estate investing the means. Until next time, keep moving forward and may God bless.
Thank you very much for visiting the Old Dogs REI Network. We would greatly appreciate if you would stop by iTunes and let us know what you think of the show. We would love if you could subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. The more ratings and reviews we receive, the more visible the podcast will be to others. Thank you.